All right, today we're doing a deep dive into something. Well, it's a really fascinating overlap.
It really is.
We're talking about where, high-stakes street philosophy crashes right into top-tier MBA strategy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And we're going to rip apart this whole idea of strategic self-packaging. Our mission here is to understand why what you charge, why it often has so little to do with your talent and everything to do with how you signal your value.
That's the core of it, really. I mean, what's critical for you to grasp is that successful profit generation, it relies almost entirely on that strategic signaling.
So it's not just about looking good.
Not at all. It's about making sure your external price tag aligns perfectly with your internal weight, your actual expertise and impact.
Okay, so let's unpack that. I want to start with this idea that sounds, it's pretty counterintuitive, right? This concept that people who don't pay attention. We're always told, give things away for free, build goodwill. Why does that so often fail commercially?
Well, it fails because of a psychological principle called effort justification. It's rooted in something called cognitive dissonance theory.
Okay.
So if the cost of entry is high, if you put down significant money, your brain is actually forced to rationalize that spending.
Forced to rationalize. What do you mean by that? It sounds like you're saying charging a lot is a way to force the client to commit.
Precisely. You have to assign a high value to the service just to justify the pain of that expense. If the advice is free, there's no psychological penalty if you fail or just give up.
Oh, there are no stakes.
Zero. But when you charge a premium, you guarantee they have skin in the game. You're not just maximizing your profit. You are actively triggering their internal compliance protocols. You're making sure they actually see it through.
And that's where it gets really, really interesting for me. We are always told that the sunk cost fallacy is this huge bias we have to avoid.
Right.
But are the sources saying we can actually use it as a tool for success?
Absolutely. The pain of thinking about that wasted capital, it generates grit, it generates resilience. That bias, when you leverage it the right way, it becomes the very engine of the client's success. It pushes them to finish.
Okay, so if paying makes people pay attention, the next question is, what are they actually paying for?
Right.
Because this leads right into that other maxim.
Yeah.
The game is sold, not told. Why is just giving away your best ideas a total commercial failure?
Because telling is it's just raw data, a free template, a checklist that immediately turns you into a commodity.
Right. Anyone can give away a list of steps.
Exactly. But selling is when you package that knowledge as a proprietary solution. You aren't selling the recipe, you're selling the methodology and the vision of the result.
So when they say despise the free lunch, that's just a street-level version of maintaining information asymmetry.
That is the core of it. You license the mechanics, you never give away the secret sauce. A high-value consultant sells the transformation. They strictly protect the how. The second that becomes public, your value just collapses.
So that brings up the big question then. How do you price that? How do you price judgment over just hours worked? Let's talk about the $10,000 chalk mark story.
It's such a great parable, often tied to Charles Steinmetz and Henry Ford. The expert comes in to fix this massive broken generator. He listens for a minute, walks around it, then pulls out a piece of chalk and makes one small mark on the side. He says, the problem is here. And he's right. The bill arrives. $10,000.
And of course, Ford wants an itemized list for that kind of money.
Of course. And the invoice he gets back is just brilliant. It says something like $1 for making the chalk mark.
Yeah.
$9,999 for knowing where to make the mark.
Which brings us right to pay what you weigh. You're not paying for the few minutes of labor, you're paying for the accumulated weight, for the decades it took to know where to tap.
Exactly. Your price has to be congruent with your weight, your gravitas, the risk you take on, the sheer scale of the problem you solve. If you want heavyweight results, well, you have to be prepared for a heavyweight investment.
So when you pull it all together, what does it all mean? It seems like we've landed on this idea that the rules of value are pretty much universal.
They really are.
Success requires your expertise, your weight, to line up perfectly with what you charge. And you use that price to generate commitment, all while making sure your game is sold, never ever told.
And building on that whole Steinmetz principle, here's maybe a final provocative thought for you to chew on.
I like it.
Just take a moment later and audit your weight. If you were to assess your market value, not by the hours you work, but by the financial impact of the single biggest problem you solve, your TAP, what would your new invoice look like?